To avoid blind date, CEO killer hide identity and marry a single mom. Unaware, she's target of his hunt. It was supposed to be the perfect escape, a way out of the spotlight, away from the dangers that came with his name, and far from the life he'd built, one filled with power, secrets, and a trail of enemies who wouldn't hesitate to take him down. But for Adrian Vance, the elusive CEO, known as the Killer of Wall Street, for his ruthless business takeovers, disappearing wasn't just about privacy. It was survival. With threats closing in from every side, he made a decision that shocked even his closest allies. He would vanish, not through hiding, but by hiding in plain sight. He changed his name, walked away from his empire, and entered a world where no one knew who he really was. Meanwhile, across town, Lila Hart was trying to hold her life together. A single mom working 2 jobs and barely keeping up with rent, she had little time for drama or distractions. Her 5-year-old daughter Mia was her entire world, and any free moment she had went into making sure Mia had everything she needed, even if it meant sacrificing what she wanted. Romance was the last thing on her mind, especially after being burned before. So when her nosy neighbor signed her up for a blind date without telling her, she was furious. The idea of sitting across from a stranger at some fancy restaurant felt like a waste of a perfectly good evening. That is, until she saw him. He introduced himself as Alex Morgan, a quiet, intense man with eyes that seemed to see right through her. He didn't talk much about himself, but there was something magnetic about him, something familiar, yet completely unknown. He showed up on time, paid for dinner, and even walked her to her door. And though she told herself not to get caught up in the moment, Lila couldn't deny the spark between them. Against all logic, she agreed to a second date, then a third. Before long, they were inseparable. What neither of them realized was that fate had already crossed their paths, long before that first awkward dinner. Because Adrian Vance, Alex Morgan's real identity, hadn't chosen that blind date randomly. He had been tracking someone, hunting for a lead that could expose a hidden enemy plotting against him, and somehow that lead pointed directly to Lila, not because of who she was, but because of who she used to know. Someone from her past had ties to a secret that could bring Adrian's entire world crashing down. And now, whether he liked it or not, Lila was tangled in it too. As days turned into weeks, Adrian found himself slipping deeper into this new life. He started to forget the cold calculations that once ruled his every move. For the first time in years, he laughed. Not the polite chuckle of a businessman playing nice, but a real, honest laugh. He cooked breakfast on Sundays, played with Mia like she was his own, and let Lila drag him to neighborhood barbecues he never would have dreamed of attending before. The problem was, the more he fell for her, the harder it became to keep the truth buried. But secrets have a way of surfacing, especially when danger isn't far behind. One night, while Lila was putting Mia to bed, Adrian received a message that stopped him cold. His cover was starting to crack. Someone had recognized him. Worse yet, they were watching him, and they weren't alone. He tried to act normal, but Lila noticed the change. The distant stares, the late-night phone calls, the way he checked over his shoulder when they walked outside. She began asking questions, but he always had an excuse. Nothing to worry about, just work stress. But deep down, both of them knew something wasn't right. Then came the knock on the door. 3 sharp raps that echoed through the small apartment like a warning. Adrian froze. Lila looked at him confused. "You expecting someone?" she asked. He shook his head slowly, heart pounding. When he opened the door, there was no one there, just an envelope taped to the wood. Inside was a photo of Lila, taken just yesterday, outside her job. That's when everything changed. Because now Adrian wasn't just hiding from the world, he was protecting someone he never meant to fall for. And Lila, she was no longer just a single mom trying to make ends meet. She was the target of a hunt she didn't even know was happening. And the worst part, the man standing beside her might be the only one who can save her, or the reason she's in danger in the first place. So what happens next? Stay tuned. Adrian stared at the photo, his fingers tightening around the edges. The image was clear. Lila standing outside the daycare center, laughing as Mia tugged at her hand. It wasn't just a warning, it was a message. They knew who she was. Worse, they were testing him, testing how far he'd go to protect her. His mind raced through every possible scenario, every enemy he'd made, every deal gone wrong. He had spent years building an empire on fear, and now that same fear had found its way back to his doorstep. But this time, it wasn't just about him. Lila stepped closer, her brow furrowed. "What is that?" Her voice was soft, but there was something beneath it, an instinctive wariness, like she already knew the answer wouldn't be good. Adrian forced a calm smile and tucked the photo into his jacket pocket before she could get a better look. "Just some weirdo stuff from work," he said smoothly. Too smoothly. She didn't buy it. He could see it in the way her lips pressed together, the way her eyes flickered with suspicion. She didn't push, not then. But later that night, after Mia was asleep and the apartment fell into silence, Lila turned to him. "You're not who you say you are you?" Her voice was quiet, but it hit him harder than any shout ever could. He wanted to deny it, wanted to tell her everything was fine, that there was nothing to worry about. But for the first time in his life, Adrian Vance, the man who had outsmarted billionaires and broken laws without blinking, felt the weight of honesty pressing down on him. He looked at her, really looked at her, and saw the exhaustion behind her eyes, the strength she carried without ever asking for credit. And he realized he couldn't lie to her anymore. "I'm not," he admitted. "But I swear to God, I never meant to hurt you." He told her pieces of the truth, just enough to make her understand that danger followed him, that someone was watching them both. He didn't mention the blind date, didn't explain why he had originally targeted her name in his investigation. That part still felt too dangerous to reveal. But Lila wasn't stupid. She could feel the gaps in his story. And even though she didn't say anything, he saw the shift in her expression. The trust was still there, but it was fragile now, like glass held between trembling hands. The next few days passed in uneasy silence. Adrian kept a close eye on their surroundings, always scanning crowds, always checking locks twice. He moved them into a different apartment under a new name, one with security cameras and no windows facing the street. Lila went along with it, but she was changing, becoming more observant, more guarded. Even Mia seemed to sense the tension in the air. Then came the call that changed everything. It was late when the phone rang, and Adrian froze as he saw the number flashing on the screen. A burner phone, one he thought only 2 people in the world knew the number to. One of them was dead. The other was the woman sitting across from him, sipping tea like nothing was wrong. He answered quietly, stepping into the hallway so Lila wouldn't hear. "You shouldn't have come back," a voice growled on the other end. "You left a mess behind, Vance, and now we're cleaning it up." Before Adrian could respond, the line went dead. When he returned to the kitchen, Lila was staring at him. "Who called?" she asked. There was no accusation in her tone, only curiosity. But Adrian knew better. She was piecing things together, connecting dots he hadn't even realized were visible. No one. He lied again. She didn't believe him. Later that night, while Adrian slept, Lila did what she should have done the moment he walked into her life. She searched his bag. Buried beneath a stack of cash and fake IDs was a newspaper clipping from 5 years ago. The headline screamed off the page, "CEO vanishes after billion-dollar scandal." Below it was a photo of a younger man, same piercing eyes, same sharp jawline. Only this time, he wasn't smiling. He was being escorted out of a courthouse in handcuffs. Her breath caught in her throat. So that was who he really was. And if someone was hunting him, what did that mean for her? The next morning, Adrian woke to find Lila gone. Her clothes, her laptop, even Mia's favorite stuffed animal. It was all missing. Panic surged through him like wildfire. He checked the locks, undisturbed. No signs of struggle, which meant she left willingly. She knew, and now she was running. Adrian tore through the city trying to find them, calling every contact, pulling every favor. But it was too late, because by the time he finally tracked them down, it wasn't him who reached them first. It was the people who wanted him dead, and they weren't going to stop until they had everything he ever cared about, starting with Lila. Adrian's heart pounded as he burst into the small motel room, gun drawn. His contacts had tracked Lila and Mia to this rundown place on the outskirts of the city. But something felt off. The door was slightly ajar, the silence inside too heavy. He stepped in slowly, scanning the dimly lit space. Empty. No signs of struggle, just a half-packed bag on the bed and a child's drawing, left crumpled on the floor. Then he heard it. A faint whimper from the bathroom. He pushed the door open with his foot. Gun ready. Lila was there, crouched beside the bathtub, holding Mia tightly against her chest. Her eyes were wide with fear. But when she saw Adrian, something shifted. Not relief exactly, but recognition. She knew who he was now. And still, she hadn't run for good. "They came," she whispered, voice trembling. "They said if you didn't show up by morning, they'd come back. For us." Adrian dropped to one knee in front of them. "I won't let that happen," he said, his voice steady, despite the storm raging inside him. "I promise. But I need you to trust me one last time." She looked at him for a long moment, then nodded. That night, Adrian made the call. He reached out to the only person who could help him end this. The woman who had once been his partner in every sense of the word, Elena Reyes, a former intelligence operative turned rogue. She had walked away from their world years ago, but if anyone could help him take down the network hunting him, it was her. The next morning, the meeting was set, an abandoned warehouse near the docks. Just like in the movies, except this wasn't fiction. This was real, and people were going to die. Lila wanted to stay, but Adrian wouldn't let her. He bundled her and Mia into a car with Elena, who promised to keep them safe no matter what. "If I don't make it out," he told Lila, "they'll disappear with you. You'll never have to look over your shoulder again." She didn't cry, didn't beg him not to go. Instead, she kissed him hard on the mouth and whispered, "Come back to us." Inside the warehouse, 6 men waited. Some old business rivals, some former allies turned enemies. They thought they had the upper hand, thought Adrian Vance would come alone, desperate and broken. They were wrong. Elena had already planted explosives around the perimeter. Her team was in position. All Adrian had to do was stall. He walked in with his hands raised, wearing the same suit he wore the day he first met Lila. The man who stood before them wasn't the cold-hearted CEO they remembered. He was someone new, someone who had finally found something worth living and dying for. "You want me," he said. "Here I am." The gunfire started fast. Chaos erupted. Adrian ducked behind crates as bullets tore through wood and steel. Elena's team moved in like ghosts, taking out targets with precision. It was over in minutes. 5 dead, 1 captured, and Adrian, he walked out alive. When he got back to the safe house, Lila was waiting. Mia ran into his arms, squeezing him like she never wanted to let go. Lila just stared at him, searching his face for any sign that he wasn't really there. "I kept my promise," he said softly. She stepped forward and wrapped her arms around both of them. "You did." Weeks passed. The news picked up the story. Mysterious attack wipes out underground crime syndicate. No names were released, no arrests were made, but Adrian Vance was officially declared dead. Again. This time, though, it wasn't an escape. It was a fresh start. He and Lila moved far away, somewhere quiet, where no one knew their names, where Mia could grow up without fear. He worked remotely, helping Elena dismantle the rest of the organization piece by piece. Lila opened a small daycare center, the kind she always dreamed of running, and life, for the first time in either of their lives, felt normal. Looking back, neither of them could explain how they ended up here, a single mom and a CEO who used to play God with people's lives. Fate had thrown them together under the worst circumstances, only to reveal something neither expected: love, real and undeniable. So what began as a lie became the truest thing either of them ever knew, and sometimes that's how life works. Sometimes the people we're running from are the ones who end up saving us. Sometimes the hunt leads not to destruction, but to home.